Well, good afternoon, folks. Happy Thursday to you. I apologize for the delay. Had a little technical issue going on here, but we finally got it going. So 15 minutes late, forgive me. I try to be on time, but the technology just didn't want to cooperate. We'll blame it on it. I won't take the blame. I'll just blame it. But tonight we got a special guest. We got our founder and our chief evangelist, overseer, Bill Adams, going to be on with us today to share a little bit with us. And after that, I'm going to go over our game schedule for this weekend and some other things. But without further ado, I'm going to bring Bill on, and then we will go over our other information later. So bear with me just a second while I get Bill on. Hey, Bill, how you doing?
Alex, good. Good to see you.
You too. You too. Everything going okay?
Sure. Just loving technology.
Yes. I apologize for the delay. Just I don't know what happened. Like I said, it's been working good, and all of a sudden I get the boss on, and here we are.
That's what goes in it. That's for sure.
Anyway, I appreciate you taking your time. I know I get on here at night because just work schedule and stuff. This works better for me, so I appreciate you being on with me. You're the what do you call yourself, the founder and chief evangelist, or
just coming overseer, taking the words out of 2 Timothy.
Okay, cool.
Right, 1 Timothy 2, I think that's what it is.
All right, we appreciate all you do. So
sure.
All these guys, I mean, most of them I wouldn't even know if not for sportsman outreach. So always thankful for that. But we're just gonna get a little background. Just I was thinking today, I don't remember if I've ever heard the story about how SFOI came to be and how it started and all that fun stuff. So you could share with that a little bit.
That's a good question. For the sake of summarization, there's really sort of 3 steps. One, when back in the 90s, when the Lord really called me to evangelize, He sent me to what I'm just going to call cultures that I knew, and for various sundry reasons. But one of those was sports, and so in Atlanta, I started going down to Falcons games and Hawks games down at Phillips Arena. I really started at some point going to the Georgia games. I can remember this. You'll get a kick out of this. I was driving up 316, and there's that big Jesus sign on the right.
Yeah.
And of course, I thought that was the first time somebody put it up, and I thought, here the end is here. So anyway. So I started going up there. That's kind of how it got going. I started going because, the way the Lord called me into this, looking for crowds to preach to, right? So that's kind of how I got going. And then, so I didn't travel much early on, but I did go to the Super Bowls. And so the development of the Super Bowl took a couple of steps. One, I went a couple of years, and then I think it was in 2004 in Houston. Was down on the main, I think it's called the main line. And they had one of those concerts like the Super Bowl has. I'm telling you, Alex, it must have been 50,000, 100,000 people walking by me. It was crazy. And I just said, got to get, somebody to help me. I mean, there's just so many people. And so the next couple of years I spent trying to figure out how to organize it. And I've been I guess I think these details are helpful. I've been a political fundraiser in the 90s. And what all that means is I learned how to organize a dinner, get people to go. I knew some of the fundamentals, but I didn't understand how that you got someone to commit and spend the full time there. It took me 2 or 3 years to figure that out. And so that's kind of the middle stage. And then 2009 was the first year the Super Bowl, a sports fan was really sort of born around the Super Bowl in Tampa. And that's kind of how it got started. And then I would travel when I left Atlanta, would go to these, between the second and third stage, I would go to these multiple day events and got to see what was happening. And then you see how that the thing with sports is that it's the way, whether it's a 1-day game at UGA or a 4-day Final Four, the sports marketers are doing the same thing. And they do the same thing in the States, in Canada, in the UK, and Australia. And once you see the similarity, then you realize all you have to do is get there and you know what to do. And that's kind of the beauty of the whole thing, right? That once you understand the flow of the crowds, how to find a place to stand, that's kind of what it is now. And pretty much it's the same everywhere we go. So that's kind of how it unfolded.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Is that too much information?
Oh, no, that's great. That's good info. Good info. I just going to pick your brain a little bit, just things that I ask other guys about and seeing we all have in common. Questions we get asked. What would you say to someone that was saying, SFOI, and I'm not trying to stir up any trouble. I'm just, I've heard this before. SFOI is trying to replace the local church. I don't need the church if I got sports fan outreach. Is that what sports fan outreach is, a replacement of the church, or?
No, not at all. We haven't pretended to be that, and don't pretend to be that. I guess there's two answers. One, if you hear me talk about it, get on the videos. I try to communicate to pastors like, look, here's what we're doing. We start off with the verses, some sow, some water. God gives the increase. Faith comes by hearing. We are looking for unbelievers, lots of unbelievers in one place. And then we preach because it kicks off the spiritual dynamic. And then we're there in person. I think that's really important to minister to people as they respond. And then we want to refer them to a Bible teaching church for discipleship. I say that all the time, and that's true. You know how it is. Guys come along and who are sometimes they're passing through, and they find a lot of comfort by the fellowship. But we're not a church. I'm not a pastor. I'm not trying to be. And so, but you can see how people might assume that just by nature of how guys roll in. But no, we're not a church.
Okay. All right, and I knew that answer. I just wanted to clarify. Hear it from you. Everybody hear it. But yeah, that's good stuff because I found that to be the case. When I hear stuff kind of along those lines, it's like no, not at all. And I've never even got an inkling that was happening. It was just it's just like a group of weirdos that go out and preach the gospel. In my mind, to put it redneck.
That's true. Well, the interesting part to that is that the thing with life in general, but in Christianity, there's some fundamental things that we all do. We fellowship, we teach, and kind of live it out. So the Christian life is not complicated. And so what I'm saying there is that what we do is we adhere to some of those fundamentals, right? We fellowship, we teach, and we go out and live it. And so I think that's a really interesting thing to get a hold of, because a lot of times, how would I say it? Like sometimes you can the old adage about the forest and the trees, right? Sometimes people see the Christian life through the lens of trees. And that means you're seeing all these variety of things that support the forest, and you get caught in that. And so you say, hey, those guys are starting a church, and there's nothing in there. Instead of looking at the forest is the big picture, fellowship, teaching, living it out. And so that's one thing that we all have in common, but that should be in common with really any Christian endeavor, that you're undertaking those three things, because that makes us what we are.
Okay, cool, awesome. So now we this live is focusing, of course, on SFOI 1000 football. That's what I focus on, which is a blessing to be part of. But give us kind of an overview. I know Sportsman Outreach is everywhere. People will always ask me where Bill's at, and I say I have no clue, because he's all over the place all the time. Lord. Pretty sure he's not in Tennessee, though. He's somewhere. So just kind of give us an overview of maybe some upcoming events or where you've been and stuff like that, to give people a bigger picture of, I guess, what goes on.
Yeah, again, what you're doing with sports, like I said, you have sports presents really two fundamental opportunities to us. One is the single day event, a Georgia game, a Tennessee game, although there's a season there, but you know what I mean? I mean, sports has seasons, sports has season ticket holders. All that's the same. So that's one open door. The other is the multiple day event open door. So we're talking things that we know, Super Bowl, Final Four, MLB, NBA All-Star, Grand Prix, these kind of things. And so we really hone in on those two endeavors. And that's the truth. That's true in other nations. Like we are a registered charity now in Canada. We have been one in the UK. Canada does the same thing. So they have a CFL, Canadian Football League, which is leading up to the Grey Cup. I'll get to that in a second. They've also got obviously their hockey's part of the NHL, but they have a lot of hockey teams. They've got an MLS teams across the country. So they do the same thing. The UK is probably, They have a lot of sports leagues, and they have different leagues over there. They've got cricket, rugby, uh, football, or soccer, what do you want to call it. So, but this is still same concept, right? So that's the way to see what we're after. Uh, what I and so what I spent a lot of time doing is organizing the outreach to the multiple day events. And so, like for instance, went to Canada the last week in May, and I was up there in August working on the Grey Cup, which is in the Toronto area. So we're trying to put a lot of emphasis on that. That's going to be a big event, I think. I think so. And and we're working on going to London. We've been over there a lot since 2012, taking people over there, really trying to just have more of an established presence and getting local people out. It's kind of a challenge not being there all the time, but that's something we work a lot on. And then also this fall is the Pan Am Games. So the Pan Am Games are really like the Olympics for the Americas, and so that is a good event. But this year it's in Santiago, Chile. And so here's what happens. I think this is kind of interesting. It's kind of the spiritual side of the situation. So we have been to Mexico City a couple times, but I don't speak Spanish. And so going down there is a very Spanish city. So what happens here is I begin to try to network and find people who will go, people can work with. And what we're really trying to do down there is establish an ongoing presence for people to reach out to the sports fan. And so we found actually a local IMB missionary who lives down there.
Okay.
There's a missionary who's nearby, who's part of REF. I'm on the board of REF. And we've met 3 or 4 Americans working down there. And then there's about 5 of us going. I might not be going, but 5 guys we know going down. And so we're trying to see what the Lord's doing down there is what I'm getting at. And then hopefully be able to launch out from there to other things in South America. So that's one reason we go through those kind of ropes. Same way in Canada, like, you meet people when you're starting off new. And so I've met guys that run seminaries, pastors, these kind of people up there around Toronto. So when I'm organizing stuff, I'm trying to network and meet people that can work with us, try to get the lay of the land. So it gets a lot more easy for the next events like it is in the States.
Okay. Awesome. So it's worldwide, really, I guess, now at this point. You could say.
I've met some guys who are over in India, and we're trying to work out the distribution of tracks at the Cricket World Cup. That's Cricket World Cup. They're having games in 10 cities in India. They'd probably kill me if I went over there. So I'm trying to work with these guys. So here's the forest for sports, Vince. I think there's like 660 stadiums and venues that have 40,000 or more capacity. So plus like an arena in the United States or Canada in the world. So my idea, I know I'm given to prone to fantasy, but is if you can imagine having an evangelist in all of these nations, and that's possible with the social media and internet.
Yeah.
And so this is what I hope we can get enough traction here. Traction is just really networking enough to find guys and explain. I found a guy in another event I'm working on to facilitate all this. Hopefully I'm not losing him, but the Africa Cup of Nations is the biggest multi-day event in Africa. It's an annual event. It's soccer. So this year the game is in Ivory Coast in January, February. And just through this networking process that I spend time on, I met a gentleman who lives in the Ivory Coast. His name is Jean-Claude. It's a French-speaking nation down there. And so I'm trying to fly. If he gets a visa, he's going to fly up to join us in London. And I'm going to show him kind of what we do so he can go back and kind of organize this around the games. And so see what I can do is I can communicate with these guys because of social media. I can find them, LinkedIn. And that right there, I think I found another guy. He's in Nigeria. And if you look on the website, there's a page called SFOI Global. And so we're trying to reach out and bring these guys in, and it's working. It's starting to work. So that's exciting for me.
Okay, good deal. Yeah. And I'm going to share a little bit after we get finished. I'm going to share the website, and I'll kind of breeze through some of it just to show. But there's a lot of information on there. It's and it'll help people understand, I think, more of what we do. But yeah, that's good stuff. That's wild. So the goal is to preach the gospel to every stadium on the planet. So I like it.
If you contemplate, the people, the numbers of people, and like I said, it's consistent. We've met. You get me going. Hard to stop. But like in London, one beautiful thing about going to London, like, is you meet foreign sports fans on neutral turf. And we
Yeah.
were up there several years ago. It was the cricket, and that Bangladesh was in the tournament, and they had fans from Bangladesh. Just think about it, Bangladesh. I mean, I don't know if we could fly in there or not, but they had a ton of fans there, and they looked like you and me with the jerseys on. And we preached to them, and they were like normal. So what I'm saying is, like, the sports phenomenon is similar in all of these nations. I see
Right.
that, and that's what you're tapping into. If I could, I see people like on LinkedIn that we can communicate about it. Uh, I think I'm starting to hopefully get better at communicating what we're actually doing. A lot of times people think we're putting on clinics, teach people a sport, and then preaching the gospel there. That's not what we're doing. So it's kind of getting clear on that, getting better at that. I think we could reach millions of people probably every month, much less every year. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Good deal. All right, here's the $1 million question, I think, for all of us. I know we were talking about how much you travel and stuff, and I know you got a great wife that's supportive, and you got young children and stuff. So how do you balance family and ministry? How do you kind of deal with that?
Yeah, it's a good question, and something you have to be conscious of. I mean, when I was still single and, you know, early on in this whole thing, I heard a lot of stories. I mean, I guess by God's grace, He taught me to at least listen sometimes. And so you listen to the stories of ministers and preachers, and you realize where the great problem lies, and that is in, for a good cause, you would say, but the family gets neglected.
Yeah.
And no one gets a pass when the family is neglected. Billy Graham hasn't. He's had some trouble with his kids. The best and the brightest. It's not something that anybody can get a pass on. And so I saw that a lot. And so for what that means is, that you can't neglect it. You're not trying to neglect it, but you know what I mean?
Right.
You get caught up in the ministry stuff, and if you're popular, like you're getting invitations to speak, I could see how it'd be very addictive to go. Like, they want me, I'm going. But I don't have that problem. I don't know if
Me
anybody
neither.
else do. We don't have that problem typically, but I can see it. I can be sympathetic to how it unfolds. Nevertheless, it is something to address. So, first of all, my first point is I'm conscious about it. The second thing is I manage the time that I'm around. So one virtue, if you will, of, quote, being full time is I have some flexibility. So, like, in the mornings, we have like a 2 hour. I've got time set aside to hang out. This sounds so manipulative. Like, it's not really how it unfolds. We homeschool. The kids get older. If they go to school or you homeschool, you're not going to be together all day. But what we do is we have the time set aside in the morning to be together, and I'm home at night, things like that. I make a point. I pick them up, drop them off, things like that. That's how I pay attention. I look at them. One thing I've noticed over the years of talking to people is when someone doesn't have I'm just giving right here a strategy for one thing I do. When you don't have a father, you have this idea about God that God doesn't want you. This is really a big problem, and it really sets people on the broad way. So what I do is my kids come up, I open my arms, I hug them all the time, I kiss them on the cheek. I want them to know they can come to Dad, and I think in that light, that brings them some security. And the other thing, my wife, she does a great job. I mean, she's researched a lot of this. You learn things. What can I do that's really helps my child develop? So, like, reading to your child is very helpful. And so we do some of that too. We read the Bible, we read other things. I go out and throw the football with them, stuff like that. So certain things really help them. Security is the word. Like, your child, when you're not there, they feel insecure. When you're there and you're reassuring them that you're there, that's what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Like, in an inner level, plus the teaching and living it and these things. So that's kind of how it works for me. And so now when Dad's gone, I'm going to go to London for 10 days. it doesn't bother them.
Yeah.
Dad's coming home, and now, I did get a lecture one time from my wife. She said, "Listen, Bill, as you know," she said, 2 weeks is too much, and so I did sort of rein it in some, and so I have done that because when the kids are younger, all that. But that's kind of how it works. You learn what to do. You know you need to be around. You know how to bring them that comfort and security, and if you can do that, and then that's the key. That takes the pressure off of them.
Yeah. I know something too. If I can make an observation,
Sure.
we've been together out doing team leader retreats or whatever. We'll be driving down the road somewhere, and one of your children will call you, and
Yeah.
you'll take the time, sit there, and you'll talk about what they're interested in, what they're doing, and it's like you don't talk about what you're doing. You're listening to them, and you're engaging what they're doing. And I've just always admired that about you, that you take time even when we're out doing ministry, because I sometimes get out and get so focused.
Yeah.
I get a phone call from anybody, it's like annoying. Yeah.
All right. What do you want? Right.
Yeah. It's like, leave me alone.
That's right.
So I have noticed that, and I appreciate that's a good example you set for all. I think the men that are with you when that happens, that's a great example I think you set for us, because it is noticeable. So I can appreciate it too. But I thought you might have some wisdom, and you do. I know everybody I talk to, we all kind of have that same struggle balancing. I know I have. And I've had a few lectures myself, so I understand.
Yeah.
All right, we won't keep you much longer. I was going to ask you
Next time.
consistency. We talk a lot about consistency, and I always joke with people and say you have Bill Adams beats in my head consistency. So that's what gets me in trouble, because it's like every home Georgia game's like, I'm going. I don't care. And even if there's something else going on, I get in trouble because I'm going to be there no matter what. So I blame you. But talk to us a little bit about consistency and why it's so important.
Well, consistency, all these attributes that we talk about doing the work are really because of the person, the people we're preaching to. And so if you think about the reverse of consistency, sometimes I'm going to give a couple illustrations here, but typically we're such sinners. We really think of this whole thing from our perspective out. And you have to sort of be aware that you do it. And if you become aware that this is how you evaluate going and whether to go and can I skip, that's not the right way to evaluate what to do. So here's my illustration. If your church, let's say they met 1 hour 1 week in one place, the next week they met a different time in another place, they met the next week a different place, and so on and so forth, you could never go because you couldn't find them. So one reason the church meets at the same time, the same place, is so you and me can go. So, right, that's the idea of consistency. You're there. There's the guy at the Georgia game with his friends in the same spot. That's the dynamic. We're human beings. We respond to that sense of security. Security is a big word. Consistency, your presence. And if you're there, they can come up and ask you a question.
Yeah.
If you're there, then you reinforce your message. If you're there, then you almost become a fixture. And yeah, that's the church. They've been there 40 years, right? They're a good bunch of folks, right? There's the preachers that are always there. And the world sort of adjusts to you. You probably saw that, like, all the illicit things that you could see probably by and large don't come around anymore once you walk out there and start using the Bible. And so once you become consistent, people shift and they don't come around necessarily. The police get used to you. And I know those guys. That's another benefit of consistency. I know those guys. I've listened to them. They're not trying to rile up the crowd. Just leave them alone. If they get a complaint, they're going to say, I know those guys. This is probably not true. I can give a lot of examples of that. So consistency has a lot of merit and beyond the scope of what we see. And that's really the reason. I mean, for me, the thing that I see, like at UT, even in Atlanta, but at UT, I go to the same place, and there's 2 points here. One is what I look for when I'm out there is the look in people's eyes. Immediately, once you start preaching, they start responding. And if you're there, you are a prompt in their spiritual life. If you're not there, that's not going to happen. I mean, you and me, Alex, we don't compete with people trying to get our spot. Like, we have no competition basically. And so it's not like someone is going to roll up there and take your spot at Georgia or mine at UT. So that means if I'm not there, that's not going to happen. Like, if
Right.
you care for the people, right? This thing has, I remember an old friend said, and this is just kind of the way people are. As adults, it takes about 7 times to your message for it to sink in.
Yeah.
I've got 7 home games. I'm trying to get that message out 7 home games and just reinforce, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's really important to them. And the other thing is people, like I remember a guy, I went up there, I guess it was 2021, something like that. And when you're there early, the workers come by, and this guy who was a worker at the stadium he goes, hey, I was wondering if you're going to come back this year. We sure need you this year. And see, your consistency prompts that thought in that guy's life. I'm sure they think that about y'all at Georgia. So there's so much that goes on if you're there all the time.
Yeah.
And that's one. Those are some reasons.
Yeah, and I've seen exactly that even before I was that consistent play out. That there's a vendor who sells hot dogs and drinks, and I think Rich kind of knew him before anybody did. But I go down there and get some water. He'll give me some. He'll say, I was going to come check on you guys, see if you need anything.
Yeah.
And there's a ticket scalper that every game he comes and takes a track from me, and I'm sure it's just to encourage me.
Yeah, sure.
And so yeah, all that stuff plays in there like I do. And I kind of tell people too, last week on the video, I think I was talking about how I think we take ownership of these people in this stadium just like a pastor would his people. Like God has put these people literally in our care, their souls, for us to get out and get the gospel to them. So I think when you get that mindset, like you say, it's not about us, it's about them and about God, then I think it's easier to be consistent. I'll put it that way.
Well, that's a great point. I think, we are always afraid to use pastoral language.
Yeah.
But we are, I think like in the sports fan 1000 especially, like you are seeing this as you're taking the spiritual authority in a place, taking oversight. That's what we're doing. That's what we want to do. And that, therefore, we pray for all the people that are in that world, civil magistrate, coaches, all those people, we learn their names because you are taking that oversight.
Yeah.
And that mindset versus I'm the preacher, I've studied, I'm ready to bring the gospel to you. See, that guy, he's more like a rocket rolling in, exploding and going back. There's really no oversight. And so that's how you get this hit and miss kind of person.
Yeah.
And I'm not criticizing it. It's just, you have to really, maturity is seeing this in a broader light. That's what I believe. And that's kind of what we're promoting here. Take ownership of it. That's a good word.
And I like that. It's being part of Sports Fan Irish has helped me a lot getting that mindset right, because I'm kind of protective of my stadium and my fans, I think, because you get these guys that blow through once or twice a year, that come in and got the big bullhorns, the big signs, and they just blast people and then they're gone.
Yeah.
And I've tried, I think I'm kind of maybe in sin in this sometimes, but it kind of makes me angry sometimes. It's like, why are you here?
Right. Keep moving, man.
Not that I'm better than them or have arrived and they haven't. It's just like, it's like they just, I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's probably sin in my heart.
In Atlanta, man, of course, there's all kinds of Atlanta, but I call it limousine preaching. They come up there, they get out, somebody drops them off in their car. They got sunglasses on. They got a 12 by 12 banner, the loudest bullhorn on the planet. Everybody knows they're there. They get back in the car. No one's approaching them except to cuss them, and they leave. Like that's one way to do it. But that's not what we're presenting here. We're human beings. I'm a real person. I want to be approachable to you. I know you see the difference. That's what I'm with you. Really, this limousine thing is really bad. Well, you can always make the case that everything works, and the harder you press, it's gonna push more out of people. There's no doubt about it. But I don't know, man. That's just not what we're trying to do, man.
Yeah.
So I agree. Really, it does. I can see why people on campuses get upset when preachers come on, because we get upset, like you're saying, like, hey, man, why don't you go down to Centennial Park or something down there?
Yeah.
Up the amp, leave us.
Go to Tennessee and bother Bill. Leave me alone.
That's right, man. That's right. That's so true. Oh man.
Yeah, and I did. You probably dealt with this too. I've dealt in the past with repercussions from that type
Yeah.
of from
Yeah.
over the top kind of guys that we probably wouldn't minister with. Just they just lump us all together, and you have to kind of undo what they've done to move forward. So that's enough. We won't beat that dead horse anymore. We're in agreement, I think. But I'll give you the last word here. I'll just let you share, Bill, whatever you'd like to share with us, and then we'll let you go and get about your night.
Well, thanks. I think the whole mission here, like the sports thing. If you give me like a couple of summary points. Sports, this is not about the sport. It's about where people are at. Like when you study Whitfield and Wesley, I've read a lot about them. In their day, people were in the fields. They had these big fields in London, and they would basically have big, large markets. And so they preached out there in the fields or the coal mines or stuff like that. And so they were going where the people were at.
Right.
That's what we're doing for starters. There are things that are particular to sports in our day that we live in. Sports a very dominant part of the Western world's life. It's really amazing how much much sports reporting is out there. And so it's a big deal, but so I'm saying that is a big deal. There are particular things that come with a sports thing. I'll give you an example. Because of technology, this phone, they want to disciple people. You can be a disciple 24/7, out of season, in season, with this phone. And if you watch the way the sports media communicates, like if you go to NFL.com, it's hard to find the score. You have to get past all the drama stories. You know what I mean? I don't know if they do that with UGA.com, or Alabama, and so they are trying to bring you into the emotion of it, no doubt about it. And so there is a reason to go on that sort of idolatrous level as well. So that's what I mean. The particular things that go on, like when you preach at a concert, some of those people worship the bands. Most of it's just flagrant sin, and it's a little bit different environment. Anyway, and so you have this dynamic in our day when sports is so prevalent and it has this idolatrous, they're trying to do this to people. And so that really brings us, the third thing is they do bring out a lot of people. I mean, 104,000 people in Knoxville.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So what does that say to us? That says, hey, we have an opportunity. We have these people in front of us. They're easy to get to. They're easy environments to get into. We ought to go tell them about Jesus. Like there's really no reason not to go. It's not a hostile place. We found that out in Los Angeles. It's easy. It's not hostile, and more than that, the body. Of course, this is a big topic. Really needs to care for the lost. We don't care. We don't care that people don't believe, and it's obviously our constant prayer for laborers, and that God would lead the body to care for lost sinners, and this would be a destination for a church to go to if they really begin to say, okay, where are they besides knocking on doors? This would be a destination. So I think, in our day, sports is the ideal, consistent destination. It's a great place to go to take oversight and also to bring people to. If that's a good summary statement.
Amen.
That's why I think in our day, that's why it's the best thing going right now. And if it goes away, there'll be other places as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And well, Bill, I want to thank you for your time and all friendship over the years and the encouragement you've been to me and stretching me and challenging me and keeping me on track.
Yes, been great.
I can get
fun. Sure.
All right, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon.
Okay, Alex, have a great night. Thanks for having me on.
All right, thanks. God bless.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, folks, that was Brother Bill Adams, founder and chief overseer, chief evangelist, whatever you would like to call him, of Sports Fan Outreach International. It's big ministry. I'm blessed to be a small part of it with SFOI 1000. And speaking of SFOI 1000, I want to go over our games for the upcoming week. If you'll bear with me just a second. I'm going to get the right slide up here. We'll go over the NFL games first and foremost. Let me see if I can get it on the screen. I'm technologically challenged, especially today, so bear with me just a little bit. I think this is it right here. Here we go. All right, I'll take myself off the screen for a minute. All right, there we go. This weekend, you'll see we have a Falcons game on Sunday at 1 p.m. It's kickoff time. Sterling Long, awesome brother. I'm sure if you know anything about, if you've been involved with us at all, you know who Sterling is. But he's the evangelist to the Falcons fans. He is out of town visiting family, and so Lord willing, I will be down there to cover for him. And Brother Doug, who does the Georgia Tech games, is going to try to join me. He's under the weather, so we're praying for him. And we're going to be down there Sunday from probably 10 to 1, somewhere in there, over by the MARTA station up on that corner, probably covering that venue for Sterling. And that's what we want to do. If you're in the group here and you cover a stadium and you can't be there, I would encourage you to do your best to get somebody there, like we were just talking, to be consistent. So you've always got the gospel there and people see it consistently and they don't think you're just a come in, blast them with some preaching and then leave kind of person. So we want to be consistent, as Bill said. So try to do that. If you can't be at your venue, try to get somebody to cover it. I mean, things happen, life happens, and we understand that certainly. But we're just wanting to take ownership of our venues and take it personal and just love those people. Then we have David Dorman. He will be at the Bengals game. Kickoff there is at 1 as well. And then Phil Green will be at the Broncos game out in Denver. Kickoff there is 2:25 p.m. And I believe these are all local times. So just check. Have any questions, just Google it and check it. And you can come up with the time for your area. Then finally, we have Mike Andrews at the Panthers game. Kickoff there 7:15 p.m. That'd be Eastern time, I'm sure. They're out here on the East Coast. So be praying for those men as they go out and preach the gospel. Now let's get into some college games. Coming up this week 3 of the college football season. It's like football season gets here real quick and then it's gone real quick. It seems like to me it's hard to believe it's week 3. I had to stop and think about that for a minute. But this week, upcoming games, we have Mr. John Dawson be at the University of Memphis. That's actually tonight, so he is probably already finished up preaching there. So he was there tonight. So be praying for Brother John. He's a great brother, loves the Lord, loves people. So be praying for him and his ministry there. He's starting up actually this year at the Memphis game. So be praying for him and that he will get some wingmen there and that God will grow him a team. And we got Brother Rod Grubb. He will be at the Boise State game, kickoff at 12 noon Saturday. Devon Webb at University of Wisconsin, kickoff at noon there. Joe Toy and gang will be at North Carolina State. Joe's an awesome brother. He's been preaching in the open air for years and years. And if you ever get a chance to hang out with him, you can glean a lot of wisdom from him. But Brother Joe will be North Carolina State game, kickoff at 2. Then yours truly, I'll be down at, Lord willing, at the University of Georgia game on Saturday, kickoff at 3:30. Ministry time there is between 12:30 and 3:30. So if you want to get involved there with us, please give me a call or reach out to me through email or however, and we'll have a chat. We have Michael Seedheller. He will be at Chapel Hill, North Carolina, at the University of North Carolina game, kickoff 3:30. Michael Coughlin will be doing the Ohio State game. Good brother there, kickoff at 4. Brother David Day over in Bama at the Auburn game, kickoff at 6 p.m. And then Brother Red, Sam Harris will be at Middle Tennessee State, kickoff there at 6 p.m. And then we have, bear with me again. Oh, wrong one. Well, here we go. Here we go. I apologize for the confusion on my part. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Jerry Collins, Bakersfield out in California, kickoff 6 p.m. John Crowley down in Florida, Orlando, kickoff at 6:30 for the Central Florida game. Then we have David Dorman, who, as you recalls doing the Bengals games as well. He'll be doing the University of Cincinnati game, kickoff at 7 on Saturday. So pray for that brother. He does both the NFL and college in his local area, so pray for him. He has busy weekends when they're both in town. Joshua Tubbs, UAB over in Birmingham, kickoff at 7. Ryan Denton and Dorothy Boycott will be at Texas Tech, kickoff at 7. Sam Wilking will be at the University of Nevada in Reno, kickoff 7:30. Francisco Nieves, my friend there in Texas, he'll be at the Texas games. I know his team came into Tuscaloosa and beat my team last week, but that's okay. That's okay. Everybody's got to lose sometime. But Francisco's a great guy, wonderful evangelist there. If you want to get involved with the outreach, he'd be a great guy to get in contact with. 8 p.m. there for the kickoff, and then Ryan Clark and Mason Goodnight over in the great state of Oregon in Eugene. The University of Oregon game kickoff there at 8 p.m. So there's our games for the week. Everything I have, and I want to share a little bit with, bear with me here. I'm going to share the SFOI website. If I've got it here somewhere. All right, bear with me. I'm getting it. If I can get it up, where is it at? Here we go. I'm having challenges today, folks. Forgive me. All right, here's the SFOI website. I'm going to refresh it. See how it comes up, and you see a homepage got a video here. I encourage you to go watch that video. It's kind of an overview. It was kind of shot at the Atlanta Super Bowl a few years ago, and you can learn a lot about the ministry there and see some short snippets of the preaching and stuff. So I'd encourage you to go there. If you look across the top, you got all these tabs that come down. Here's the SFOI 1000. You click on the football tab. See my pretty face there, and you scroll down. You can go back and watch these videos. The guests I've had on and stuff, if you'd like to do that. You can look up the stadiums to find one in your area. You can go here, and these are all the evangelists we have committed to the home games. We have about 39, 40, I think, right now, maybe, or venues covered. But you can go and you can click on these tabs here, and it'll take you to their specific page. It's got the schedules typically, and their updates and videos and such like that. And we go back up to the home page. Get a place where you can make payments, donations, blog, all sorts of stuff. You got events here from January to June and events here from July to December. All the events that's going on. We see here we got the Grand Prix. All-Star game was in July. Got the college football championship game coming up in January. If you want to get involved and go to that, it's a 3 or 4 day event. It's in Houston this year, so just contact me. Lord willing, I'll be there for that. Then we have Super Bowl outreach in February, of course, and this year it's in Vegas. And actually, the team leaders just got back, I believe, last weekend from the leaders retreat to go out there and kind of recon the situation and see what's going on. That's kind of the website there. Just give you a little view of it, so you can go on there and check it out, navigate around in there and find myself. Here we go. All right, folks, there it is. I apologize again. It's been a rocky update today. Got a late start, technical difficulties, and fumbling around through this technology stuff. But I appreciate your time, bearing with me, hanging in there. If you need anything, contact me, or Bill's always out there. His number was on the screen. I'll put it back up again. There's contact Mr. Bill. There's his bill at sfoi.org or 423-724-7500. Then my information has been scrolling across the bottom this whole time, so you can contact he or I, either one. We'll be more than happy to assist you in any way possible and help you out. But pray for the evangelists this weekend, those that are going out and preaching at these games, and I pray that we'll rightly divide the word. We'll preach with love and compassion, but also preach the truth. And just love on these people, take ownership of our stadiums, and it's a blessing to be there. If you've never done it, I would encourage you to do so. If you're looking for a place to start, that's a great place. SFOI is a great place to start. There's just to give a few shameless plugs, I guess. There's Keep Your Finger in the Text sermon prep training with Heath Putzel. He does that. There's gospel tracts. There's all sorts of evangelists involved that can give you help, information. If you're close to a stadium where there's an evangelist, then they'll be more than happy to guide you along and help you out as well. So let's get out there and let's preach the gospel. Let's get in Bill's fantasy of having the gospel preached at every stadium in the world. That's a big calling, a big goal, if you will. And my small goal here is to have everyone preach at all the home, college, and NFL football games, and that seems like a big goal as well. But it can be done. It's doable. And just imagine if people came to Georgia and they heard the preaching of the gospel there, and then they went and traveled out to Texas for a game, and they heard the gospel being preached there by Francisco, and then to Knoxville and heard Bill preaching, and just every game they went to, they heard the gospel being preached, and it was just constantly in front of them, and that's what we want. So pray about it. Contact us. Let's get out there and let's get this done. I appreciate all you folks. Hope you have a blessed evening, blessed weekend. Let's get out